I'm in control.
There are hundreds of shoulder exercises out there. You don't need them all. We're gonna help you sort through the shoulder exercises that you need to really build shoulder muscle. And we're gonna limit it to 4, which is different from what we've done in the past, but there's a reason for that.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, throughout the week, if we're training our chest, we're getting shoulders in. If we're training our triceps, we're getting our shoulders in. When we're squatting, we're creating tension in our shoulders. If we're doing farmer's walks or any form of carries, which you know I like to do, sled pushing, our shoulders are involved. So we're really gonna focus on 4 movements right now. We're gonna start with the movements that we probably wanna go a little bit higher in our reps. That's gonna help complete that entire shoulder. I like to say shoulder capsule, right? We wanna train that shoulder from the anterior delt to posterior delt to the medial head as well. So we're gonna run you through that. We're even gonna sweeten it up with a special exercise that we're gonna show you.
Exactly, you're gonna build power, you're gonna build strength, let's do it. So for our first exercise, what we're trying to do, we're gonna work around the shoulder, and we wanna start with that rear delt area. We're not gonna be able to go as heavy, but we can go higher reps. We can really focus on the squeeze. You incorporate a little bit of back here. We're going to a classic rear delt fly. Don is gonna do this a very specific way though, in that we're going to introduce a bench that's gonna help him really find a good position so he can really focus on his rear delts.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I think a lot of us like pressing, right? Like, and we want to have that big chest and strong shoulders. And then when you turn to a profile, you'll notice that specific individuals kind of flatten out in their upper back. And I find that this exercise here has worked wonders for me. I'm gonna go throw my head on the bench to avoid any swinging. I'm gonna have to go really light with the weight. Watch how I go about doing this. It's just a little trick that I incorporate where I will stick my butt straight out, back is flat, and from there, I'm raising straight out to the side, and I can hit this for a higher number of reps. Now notice how I'm not swinging, and I'm just focusing on doing a reverse fly and contracting those posterior delts.
So he's thinking about never letting his head leave the bench. That lets him focus on this. And I think what I love about this too is you get in rear delt, but you're also getting some mid-back work, which is never bad. All of that is helping to, one, build shoulder muscle, but it's also positioning your shoulders to look really jacked, which is, I think, an underrated key in just the optical effect we're trying to create as we build muscle.
We're so much more anterior chain dominant, meaning front side of the body. Everything that we're doing is pressing, or if we're sitting, or if we're in front of the computer, you know, our posterior chain gets a bit weak, our anterior chain gets a bit tight and overworked. And I feel like by throwing these movements in, like you said, we're never really gonna do too much pulling exercises, right? So I think throwing this in on a day where we are a little bit anterior delt dominant is positive for so many reasons. All right, exercise number 3 is a twist on a classic exercise, the lateral raise. There's pretty much not a shoulder workout I'm going through where I'm not, you know, utilizing some form of a lateral raise. And I love what Ebenezer's about to demonstrate for you, because we are slightly angling the body into a position using the bench where he's not going to be able to use any momentum.
Exactly. This has become my preferred way to do lateral raises over the last couple of years, using a very, very high incline. Just need a little bit of incline here. Thinking about squeezing my shoulder base, driving chest and abs into bench. And from there, I'm going to do my lateral raise, getting a little bit of a squeeze at the top.
So Eb's really focusing on the medial head of that shoulder. Right now, there is no momentum, there is no swinging. Again, one of these ways that you can kind of throw a little twist on the movement, put a little bit of that stylistic approach. You know, we've spoken about this with other exercises, but this is one of those exercises where it doesn't make standing upright incorrect, or angling forward incorrect, or maybe doing a lean away side raise with one arm incorrect. It's just changing that angle up a little bit to create that mind muscle connection. So Eb's doing a great job keeping his reps a bit higher on these. One of those movements that I think it's a little difficult to go too heavy on. This isn't maybe an exercise that you're gonna be doing 4s and 6s that much. You're probably keeping it at a minimum of about 8 reps. Not saying that we don't go heavier, but I do believe this is one of those movements that we either like to pre-exhaust before going heavy, or we like to save for later on in the workout.
Yeah, exactly. I think we have other power builders, but this is a really good movement for me, where even more than some of the other moves on this list, where I really feel like that kind of like classic burn in my shoulder, where I feel that pump. That's something I really get out of this. I think because of the strictness of the position too, and that's why I love like the high incline. It just keeps me from cheating. So I just get a really, really good squeeze, and I've got this accountability, because the moment I feel my chest start to come up, it's like, oh, I know
Yeah, it might be
I'm
too
probably
tired
going a
now.
little too heavy, or I'm a little tired.
Guys, give that one a shot. Let us know what you think. All right, guys, exercise number 2. We're going to a classic seated dumbbell press. Now, before we get started, I want to talk about the angle of the seat, right? Now, going vertical with the seat is going to require a lot of external rotation out of the shoulder, and it's also going to require some thoracic mobility, so mid-back mobility. If you're someone that is lacking in that and you're walking around with this kyphotic position, this rounded forward position, it's gonna be pretty difficult for you to get into this position. And for you to press the weight overhead, we're gonna have to lean back and create an arch in our lower back, which is gonna cause some issues or could cause some issues in the future. So Eb has got really good external rotation in his shoulder. So he could take an angle close to completely vertical. So show me right now what the press looks like. Eb's back is off the bench a little bit. This bench wouldn't necessarily come up much further. Now, Eb, if we wanted to lean back now, yes, we are going to be incorporating maybe a little bit more upper chest. Or, Eb, 1 second, I want to drop it back one more. What I'll even do with certain people is I'll go to like the highest level of incline, and I could have them press from a position where they're going to be successful, where they don't have to require as much external rotation or thoracic extension, and they're going to be able to load into a very safe position. This is just the perfect example that it's not always a one size fits all. Okay, if you're dealing with a job where you have to sit a lot and you're getting tighter and tighter in those areas, my recommendation is continue to warm up with mobility drills that are going to help recreate that loss of athleticism, and you can revert to specific little tricks like this when it comes down to pressing safely. Because if we're loading in a position that we shouldn't be in, if we're loading dysfunction, we could potentially create some issues down the road.
Well, I think the biggest thing too about the position you have me on this incline shoulder press right now is this is the position that if people can't really get overhead, this is the position that they're actually in anyway. I see so many people standing up and they're benching out or they're pressing out here.
Pressing out here, and then
might as well come down to the bench and just create a more appropriate angle that's actually going to work the shoulders instead of stressing the back muscles.
Right, what are we really trying to do with the overhead press? We're trying to create tension in the anterior delt. We're trying to create tension in the tricep. So just because we're not completely vertical doesn't mean that we're not doing that. We might be recruiting some more upper chest, and it might give you the ability to be a bit stronger, but I've worked with plenty of people with my team of physical therapists, prehab or even post-rehab, where because they have been pressing in a vertical position they shouldn't be, they start developing some back discomfort, some hip discomfort, and some shoulder issues. So be careful on that.
I think what works with this number 2 on our list is we're starting to move into the territory again of trying to just focus on moving load. And you can do that with the military press, especially with the variations that you're talking about. Once you find that shoulder angle, this becomes an exercise where we can load up. That's critical to growing your shoulders.
This is really one of those drills where I have performed a high level of repetitions, and I've gone really heavy on, maybe as low as, doubles, triples with the dumbbells. I want to create some strength. I want to create, some tension, some more muscle density. And I think this is a great drill to be able to do it and do it safely. As long as you find that angle, that's right for you.
Exactly. That's number 2.
Ev, I'm giving you 30s.
Of course you are.
I'm kidding, 25s.
So number 1 on our list, changing things up a little bit from what you might think of shoulder-wise. We want to really generate power and be strong, and that's the fundamental thing you've got to do to grow your shoulders. Going to the half kneeling kettlebell overhead press, single arm variation here, right?
I'm a huge fan of this. I love going into the half kneeling position because it really helps us to avoid getting into that excessive extension, which you and I speak about a lot. Now, what you like to press over, that becomes a bit of a question because you can do either or. So a lot of times I will be pressing from, if I'm pressing my right arm, my right leg up, because I actually do want to initiate a bit of a hip bump. Because the overhead kettlebell press, we are not only using the shoulder, but we're heavily using the lat, all right? And that's a great way for us to be able to get out of poor posture and time and really allow ourselves to protect the integrity of our shoulder. So when I'm going really heavy with this half kneeling overhead press, I will press from the right leg up. Now, if I'm trying to stabilize and I do not want to allow any of that hip bump where I'm getting a little bit of that lat press, I can very simply switch arms and press from the knee that's down, which is now going to level off my hips a bit, and I'm going to make this a bit more of a shoulder press. Now, what I'm really trying to focus on here is punching with the opposite hand. It's a technique called irradiation, where I could pick up some strength increase, and something that we spoke about earlier, not allowing those flares to, those ribs to flare is something that's really important.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what we're getting here, you wind up in this position where it's hard for the ribs to flare. It's hard for the lower back to cheat. Even just, there's a reason we're doing this press with a kettlebell too, and it's because it's natural to wind up in external rotation. It's natural to wind up in a position where your back muscles are stabilizing. So what you wind up with here, and the reason this is our #1 shoulder exercise, is because it is the safest, most optimal way out there, one of the most optimal ways once you master it, to overhead press. And that means you can load it up, and this becomes a great way to exhibit power, and building that power is gonna translate into the shoulder muscle you want. It's gonna make you stronger at exercises 2, 3, and 4 on our list.
And I hardly ever go above 8 reps on this. These are movements that Eb and I are doing sets of 5, sets of 3, sets of 6s. This is something that technically we're putting so much, we're creating so much tension in the body with that irradiation, with creating tension with that opposite arm. It is taxing, it is exhausting. This is a drill where we don't want you to actually think about creating burn with the shoulder. Like, this isn't an exercise where you're gonna create burn. This is an exercise we're really gonna try and press from that lat a bit, right? And teach ourselves to get that arm vertical, which is something that needs to be earned.
But remember too, that's why we only have 4 exercises on the list, right? We wanna be super bang for your buck. You've gotta have that power move in. You don't need to kill your shoulders. If there's one shoulder exercise you do, throw this in at the end of chest day, at the end of back day.
One of my favorites.
Exactly, as an extra. It's one move. You don't need a full shoulder workout. You just want to work our shoulder exercises in throughout your other workouts.
You know, and ironically speaking, I have gone into pressing days where I might just, my only, move into vertically press would be this. And I'm not doing much other pressing because there's so much involved with this simple kettlebell. Enjoy that one, guys.